Hello and welcome to Opinions F1. We put the P1 in opinions. My name's Harry. I've got Ben with me as always. We've decided to start another podcast because there's only one thing that we like equally as much as basketball, and that's Formula One.
We just needed the outlet, and my gosh, it's a new season. It's super exciting. We just had to share this with all of you guys, get some of our thoughts out there, and hopefully hear some of yours too. So without further ado, let's get into it.
We're doing this online because this is just the beta, the pilot, and hopefully we'll keep this going. You just finished watching the race. I was the silly boy and stayed up to 2 in the morning. Well, the race started at 2 a.m. I didn't get to bed till like 3:45 in the morning.
Oh man, that's just the I guess the cons of living in Australia and tuning in most of the European and American races. We get weird times, but it's okay.
The European ones are okay though. 12 p.m. to 2 a.m. I can handle that, but when it starts at 2, that was rough. And
that is a good point.
I'm gonna be really honest. The first third of the race, I was like, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
It was a pretty boring start to the race. Not a lot happened except for let's start with poor Oscar Piastri, because that was pretty much the main thing. But actually, poor McLaren.
I was gonna say McLaren as a whole had the worst possible start to the season. My goodness, it was bad.
Shocking.
I guess let's quickly talk about Piastri, because I'm going to put one little silver lining. The positive to take away from this is Piastri was actually making some good overtakes at the beginning of the race.
He looked good.
So, he was looking promising. But yeah, the car had engine issues. They tried to switch his wheel out. No success, and had to retire the car. Sucks.
He was making overtakes. Like, there is a little bit of pace in that McLaren. And I think it's one of those things where both Piastri and Norris will get more out of the car than probably what they should be able to at the moment. I thought they had surprisingly good pace, all things considered.
No, that's really true. I think pre-season, you could almost just hear in all of the interviews, they were like not expecting that much. But when I saw them kind of up around, I think Norris was kind of around 12th at some point, like kind of almost in the points. I was like, okay, all right, they're really actually getting something out of this car.
Wasn't he like 10th at one point before?
He was in the points at some point, yeah.
Yes.
Based on pits as well. But yeah, then Norris had a hydraulics issue, so they had to keep topping that up. So he ended up doing about 5 or 6 stops. Or something.
It was like he was playing F1 in real life.
Yeah, that's me on Monaco, crashing every lap and replacing my wing just about 3 laps. So.
For Norris, he almost got that car into the top 10 in quali.
Yeah, which is like actually so impressive based on what he had to work with.
Look, honestly, for me, it's like Norris and Verstappen and like Russell, they're all up there. Oh, and Leclerc are like insanely good, and Norris just hasn't got the machinery.
Yeah, I mean, talent-wise, we know he's proven over the last multiple seasons. It's just been consistency issue with the performance of the McLaren. So unfortunately, that was no points for them this race. But at least it's only up from here. I think it would be good to see a little bit more of Piastri. Don't want to jinx it.
Oh my goodness. Should we mention very, very quickly who, like, obviously we follow all the teams and we love all the teams. Do you have a favorite team? That's
a great question, actually. I've kind of jumped around teams a little bit in the past based on who I like each season. I think there's a little bit of a bandwagon for Aston. I am watching them with interest. But to be honest, this season I'm kind of going to lock in Williams because they've been at the bottom for so long and I want to see how they go. So that's my lock. I
am a McLaren fan. Oh dear, because they've got an Australian driver again, and I like Lando Norris. So I'm going to grind. I'm going to have to grind it out. And look, they've got a wind tunnel on the way for next year. So hopefully that a brand new wind tunnel will make a difference. So
that's fair. I feel like there's definitely room for improvement.
Please. So. Norris is so good. Just get him something half decent. That's all he needs, please.
That's so true. Just give him a car and he'll perform. I guess we have mentioned Williams. Let's quickly touch on them because honestly, they were looking so much stronger than I expected. I think everyone was a little bit surprised by their race pace. They're actually looking solid, keeping up with the midfield.
I think
finished 10th and 12th.
They were surprised.
Yeah, I think they were surprised too. But no, honestly, like and it wasn't necessarily strategy. I think they did run a slightly different strat to some of the others on tires, but just the car itself, they didn't have to rely on Albon going the entire race with no pit stops to
Oh,
try and squeeze out a point. So
Albon looked like he was driving a rocket ship. That thing had pace.
yeah, so no, it looks like they finally kind of got at least a passable car. And I'm just hoping for more points performances. And also shout out to the rookie Sargent as well, because 12th on your first Grand Prix, not quite in the points, but he was really, really close.
He
So I
was
think that's a good start.
he was the best of all the other rookies for
Yep.
that race.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, honestly, Williams, I think it's only up from here. Let's hope to see a
I'm
few more performances in the points.
so
But
excited.
yeah, 100%. I'm very keen because yeah, it's been a long time at the back of the field, a long time coming.
Williams is definitely like a very close second for me. Like I've been a huge fan of Albon, and I was really, really glad when he got the ride last year. And he's definitely done like a Russell and Williams, where I feel like he gets every single bit of performance out of the car. And I'm so excited to see what he can do. It looks like that Williams are finally doing better.
100%. Because yeah, he had some surprise performances last season, grabbing points here and there. But I think with a more reliable car this season, it should be not a surprise anymore. So yeah, we'll have to see how they go.
And
Uh,
rip Latifi, but see how well someone with a bit more pace could do with the car.
that's fair. Yeah, I mean, look, Gotifi definitely had a few fun seasons, but it'll be definitely interesting to see Albon and Sargent both really pushing for points. So,
Well, they finished pretty close together, so I think that was pretty
good
good.
indication. 100%. Very close behind though, almost nabbing that last point in the last couple of laps was Tsunoda. AlphaTauri, what do you think of them this season? It's not quite been.
Can I just say how much I hate their livery?
Oh my gosh, yeah. They were one of my teams when they were just the blue and white. I thought it was quite clean, like 2019, 2020, 2021. But
Well,
yeah, I don't know. This livery's
with
mess.
the Orlan, is it Orlan? How do I say it?
All in.
With the Orlan sponsorship, I keep thinking they're a bloody Alfa Romeo.
That's true because they were the primary sponsor before.
And then it's just the red with like the red wing with the blue and white. I just half the time I was just like, who is that? And it was really difficult to tell it was an AlphaTauri. Not a fan. Honestly, they obviously made a big mistake with De Vries. They didn't double stack during during the virtual safety car, right? They should have double stacked.
Yep.
So
they kind of left him out to dry, to be honest, which is a bit unlucky on his part.
he was mad. He was not happy on the radio afterwards. They were like, talk about it later. And he's like, I am not happy. Look, I don't know what to do with AlphaTauri. Like, Tsunoda's got potential. I'm glad that De Vries got a drive finally, but I don't think he's that good. I'm sorry.
It's an interesting take because I think a lot of people have been pretty high on him after his
I think
good performance in Monza last year.
I think there's a reason why it's taken him 4 years to get into F1 because he came through with the Russell and Lando group, and I just don't think he's that good. I think he definitely did amazing when he had his chance in Williams and made good on an opportunity, but that Williams was a rocket ship in a straight line and should have done well.
I think it's a strong opinion because honestly, he's won just about everything outside of F1. I don't think there's more he could have done to prove himself.
Yeah, I know.
He's won Le Mans, he's won Formula E. But no, look, I think that's fair criticism because to be fair, he finished 15th, which was only third last considering the retirements. So I think there's more to expect from him. I think there's more to come. But
I'm just not impressed. I need a bit more than just like a potential fluky points finish and finishing 15th.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair. We need to see some results from him. But yeah, honestly, I think AlphaTauri should be happy with 11th with Tsunoda because that car's really not up to speed. I think they're going to be one of the back markers this season.
Potentially.
Speaking of back markers, let's move on to Haas because another team with not a great performance.
I'm honestly pretty disappointed. I thought they were going to do a lot better than what they did. But then Hulkenberg couldn't keep out of trouble, which the whole point of Hulkenberg being there was to keep out of trouble.
Yeah, more of a veteran presence, but he lost his front wing end plate, I think on about the first or second, one of the first couple of laps.
He qualified really well. And
yeah, he outdid, I think, my expectations. He qualified, I think it was 10th. So yeah, a
Yes.
bit of a shame to see him drop down. Obviously, the damage impacted that, but expect him to keep it a bit cleaner. I think
Well, that's
Haas just can't catch a break with end plates because all of last season they were getting black flagged on Magnussen with his end plates. So they need to toughen those things up.
man. I'm disappointed in Hulk. Magnussen, I think. I didn't like the strategy, to be quite honest. Being the only car starting on hards, I thought that was a really bad decision. But they sort of made it work, but not really.
Yeah, I guess they were so far back they wanted to at least give it a try. But yeah, considering it wasn't really the plan,
he only gained 3 positions and there were 3 retirements, so like it was a net zero gain there. It didn't work as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I just didn't think it was a good strat.
Yeah, I think it's a fair call. We quickly move on to the other teams at the kind of back marker, I suppose. But with one surprise performance was Alfa Romeo. Zoe finished 13th, but Bottas,
the bot daddy,
in the points. How about that? Moved up 4 places.
I'm surprised with the qualification result. I thought the Alfa Romeo had a bit more in the tank, to be quite honest. And Bottas was looking pretty competitive during the race. He had a good race pace. Zhao needs to step up. That was not a. I think if you've got Bottas in 8th, I think a good margin is like 2 to 3 spots behind. So him being in 13th is just a spot or 2 below what I'd like to see from him. But he also pitted late to steal the fastest lap off Gasly, which I thought that was pretty wild that Gasly, that people other than Verstappen were getting the fastest lap. But yeah, I'm hopeful that Alfa Romeo can do a bit more because they really dropped off at the end of last season, but need to see a bit more from Zhao, closer to Bottas. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree because if you look at last season, Zhao actually scored in the first race of the season, and like you said, they really dropped off towards the end of last year. But coming into this season, it looked like they got a slightly better car. I think the story of Zhou's race was he dropped 4 places right at the beginning, so it was kind of just a fight to get them back after that. So yeah, really the start killed him. But Bottas, honestly, early on, he had some good scraps with, I think it was around Russell, even at some point, kind of fighting around with Alonso.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like it's good to see him back up there. I don't think he could quite hang with them just yet, but at least he's in the vicinity, so we'll take it.
Do we take the elephant in the room and I don't want to keep going. We're quickly going to talk, but Red Bull.
Yep, we got to cover them. I mean, not going to lie, a little disappointed that they were dominant as they were.
How? They've lost all of their wind tunnel time.
I don't think it was enough to impede them, really.
My goodness. And they were holding back the whole race. You could listen to the radio and they're like, to Perez at one point, they were like, add 0.7 to the delta. Like, they were slowing them down by so much.
Yeah, they were pretty much just cruising to make sure no issues happened. And it worked well. They finished 1 and 2. I mean, look, props to them at this point. Verstappen and Perez both consistent. It's just really relying on the car.
If Perez didn't finish second, I was going to be disappointed in him.
Yep. I think with the strength of that car, anything below a top 2 finish is unacceptable, really.
If Verstappen's like 20 seconds ahead in first place and you can't get that car to second, there's a problem.
That's so true. Oh my gosh. So yeah, pretty comprehensive victory. Which I guess Verstappen's happy because it's his first win here. Because I believe last year his car
DNF.
Failed. Yep, so
both of them.
For Red Bull. Yeah, actually, that's true. But no, obviously consistency is important, and they got the top 2. Speaking of consistency,
it was a boring look. It was boring, as opposed to like the first 2 positions. Like it was pretty much the moment the Ferraris clanked out. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion. But I want to say that the rest of the field was a lot closer together than I thought. I thought that it was going to be Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes.
Yep, definitely agree with you there because after the top 2, there were actually battles. There are actually fights going on, notably between the Mercedes and the Aston Martins. I think that was the highlight of the race for me.
Oh my goodness.
Who do you want to start with out of those 2?
Let's start off with Stroll, who had an unfortunate error at the beginning of the race where he tapped. And here's the thing, right? I think that Aston Martin could have been a smidge better if Stroll hadn't tapped the back of Alonso's rear wheel, and I don't know how they didn't puncture. But imagine if they both didn't get squirrely off that. Might have.
Yeah. Because they did actually, Alonso, I think, lost a place just off that incident. It was pretty funny because he's like, they can't do that. Can you investigate? And the team's like, oh, yeah, we're looking into it.
They told him at the end when he's in a good mood.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, you're 100% right. The touch there between Stroll and Alonso. And even later in the race, he, while battling with, I think it was Hamilton, almost damaged his wing. Just a number of little squirrely moments. Oh, it was so close.
How? They didn't Alonso almost tagged Hamilton again later. I don't know, and he did, but I don't know how it didn't impact either of them. It was crazy. I thought that Aston Martin had fantastic pace. It was so fun to watch, seeing Stroll up there racing really well, and a huge shout out that he's technically passed all the medicals, but he's not 100%.
Yeah, I think the biggest story of the day was definitely Aston Martin. Honestly, Alonso was the star, getting a podium, finishing in third. But Stroll, based on his, he had surgery 12 days before this. Pins in his wrists, I think, in his hands and in his toe as well. I don't know how he kept it together, but I think it's a testament to him, but also the car. I think the fact that they were because it wasn't just keeping up. The fact he had to overtake Alonso, dropping the positions early on. And then having to actually fight for them back. It wasn't just quality pace. That's a testament to the car. But
it was superior strategy as well, because they got more out of their tires in the first stint, and then they had Alonso had that 4-lap tire advantage when he came out of the pits.
Yeah, that's well played by the team strategy, which honestly, I think panned out well for them. At the end, we saw Alonso complimenting the car. He was at one point saying this is a lovely car to drive. Checking in on Stroll as well. Yeah.
And
it's happy Alonso is a vibe.
And based off this race, Aston Martin have conquered the crucial design flaw that makes or breaks you that I've noticed so far, and a little bit from last year. Tire deg.
Yeah.
Because the Ferraris have inherited their last year's problem that they cannot save a tire they cannot get a tire to last to save their life.
Yeah, and it ended up costing them a podium, honestly, because at the end of the race, Alonso is tracking down Sainz, who is trying to defend third, and he says, "Look, I can't make it to the end of the race defending like this. They have to make a call." And he
couldn't push. He was like, "If I push, my tires don't make it."
Yeah, and it ended up costing them a podium.
So. Really, really like Aston Martin where they're going. They're faster. They've got great strategy. It's a completely different team, which they have picked up some Red Bull engineers, I believe, in the off season.
That helps.
That helps. But Ferrari really disappointing. They couldn't. At one point, they were fighting for 2 podiums, and then a engine failure for Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is probably used to it by now, right?
I think just his reaction, it's gone from yelling to now it's just, oh no.
I feel so bad for him.
He's just dead inside. Look, I think this is the other big story after Aston Martin is Ferrari, and they cannot keep this up because, look, props to Leclerc. He was driving well, did what he needed to do. He was in second until he got overtaken by Perez. And then, just needed to hold on to the third place. And it sounded like maybe an electrical issue with the engine. But cut out. And that was his race over. Not good.
No, really disappointing. Because I thought there was maybe a chance that he could catch Perez. They were kind of on alternate strategies. So one of those strategies was going to win out. But we sort of got robbed of that. And we'll never really know until next year when they do it again. But... I thought Ferrari would be a little closer to Red Bull, but I'm not against them fighting. I'm okay if Red Bull just shoots off and then everyone else fights for it. I'm okay with that. I'll take it.
I'd like Red Bull to not absolutely dominate again, but you're right, because at least after that, instead of just having the next team clearly defined as well. I'd like there to be more of a fight. And honestly, I can kind of see it being a big four this year instead of being a big three with Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes. I can see it also adding Aston Martin in there, which I think people have been on the hype train for, but the results are speaking for themselves. So I think it should be exciting.
It'll be big to see how they can do next race. That would be huge.
Absolutely. We got to touch on Mercedes as well because not a bad result, honestly. I think they expected a bit more from themselves. They finished in 5th with Hamilton and 7th with Russell. Yeah, look, I mean, I think there was room to improve on that, but can't be too mad with a double point result, at least making to the end.
Can I just say that I don't want to be like I'm not on the hating Lewis Hamilton train. I love watching Lewis Hamilton. He is a superb driver. But I do love seeing Mercedes struggle at the beginning of the season. It's like a secret little guilty pleasure. I'm like, Mercedes have got it wrong again, and I love it. I love seeing them on the back foot because they're just so used to winning that they're just like, how does this not work? What is going on? And it is hilarious. I feel bad.
Not gonna lie, after years of dominance, it's nice to see them a little bit like more having to work for it. But they can turn it around. We've seen them last year started off looking quite poor, and then at least bringing it back. So, how quickly do you reckon you'll turn it around this season?
Look, there's rumors that they're going to completely. They've already got an upgrade ready to completely change their side pod design. So, I think getting rid of their current iteration of the car is useless.
Because they're the only one really trying to continue with that zero pod, very slim side pod design. So it's not the way to go.
All the rumors are that there'll be a new side pod design coming out in the next couple of races. So, have to see. Look, I feel bad for Russell. He hustled so hard in Williams and then got to the best team, and now they're not the best team anymore. But
yeah, picked the wrong time.
But they race well. I think tire deg and tire warm up have always been an issue. Maybe not the deg, but definitely getting the tires up to temperature. Like Hamilton, beat Alonso out of the pits, but then Alonso on the fresher tires got by. So
it was interesting. One thing I will say about Mercedes is that between the two drivers, I know that at one point Russell was saying, "Oh, my tires are going to be gone," trying to defend. Meanwhile, they're doing an undercut with Hamilton, and he's insisting, "Oh no, the tires are okay, man," but they're pulling him in.
I swear.
It's interesting. Like, is there actually a difference, like that much difference between the drivers, or I don't know?
I think it's just Hamilton. I swear that his code is like, oh, the tires are good means the tires are bad, and when he goes, oh yeah, my tires are bad, it means they're good. I swear.
That's true. we've been suspecting this for years. Perhaps the code's still going, and when he says the tires are okay, they're actually bad. So that could have been the case.
Before we get into our top 3 and most disappointing team, can I just say that? Sorry, Alpine. We want to talk about Alpine.
Yep.
Do you know? I wanted to say, I cannot get used to Gasly in something other than a Red Bull uniform. Like Alonso kind of suits, like all the other drivers that have changed teams look fine. But for some reason, Gasly for me, it's just like he looks so weird in something that hasn't got a Red Bull on it.
That's true. I'm mostly used to most of the changes. I think because Gasly was on AlphaTauri was wearing mostly like a bright white uniform, and now going to like the black with the neon color, it's quite a difference. So he's kind of joined the dark side. And honestly, it looks like a bad move. He started off last on the grid. Qualifying, he did not do well.
Well, he track limited himself.
Yeah, I guess that does.
Ouchie.
But honestly, I was like, okay. Yeah, probably not going to be a points finish. It'll be down to Ocon to maybe bring home a point or two. We got the opposite result.
Gasly went really well, and if you take away the 3 DNFs, he gained 8 positions,
which is pretty incredible. So props to him because he actually really brought that home.
Well, he started from last, didn't he?
Yeah, started dead last, finished 9th. So,
yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Exceeded expectations, and I think that Alpine should be still upper mid-level. It wasn't like the Alpine was 4th in the constructors last year, so it should be up there in theory.
Yeah, I think it should be fighting a little bit higher. It was really hard because you didn't get a full indication of it because Gasly kind of had a bit of a crazy good drive, and then Ocon got hit by a 5-second penalty for a bad grid start who was too far forward. Then another penalty for incorrectly serving his penalty. And then another 15-second penalty for speeding in the pits, and they ended up retiring him. So it was Really not
I've-
a good race for him.
Just everything that went wrong, and
Yeah.
I'd like to see what happens next race when Ocon doesn't have 50 bazillion penalties.
Yeah, because we need to actually have a better sample size to see how the Alpine is going to fare this season. So yeah, a bit of a crazy one
But-
penalty-wise.
Honestly, with the whole grid, yeah, take away Red Bull, and I think that it's possible for anyone at the moment, in my mind, to finish in the points. Maybe not McLaren, but maybe McLaren at the same time. Like, Norris can get some pretty crazy results from that McLaren. So I'm really excited to see, because I honestly think at the moment that anyone could finish top 10.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't think there's a single team that doesn't have the potential to, because at the bottom you've really only got like maybe like AlphaTauri, McLaren, Haas at the moment, but all those can still get points. So genuinely, it's going to be a good season.
We'll have to look at the spread of the season of the last year of regs, but this year's quali, everyone was within 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, that's pretty tight. I mean, obviously it comes down to such fine margins, but I think that's one of the smaller spreads if I recall correctly.
I'll have to look it up, but
yeah.
really, really cool. Okay, Ben, who gets your thumbs down for this race?
Yeah, okay, I think my number one thumbs down is probably going to be Hulkenberg. Obviously, coming back to F1 full-time, going to have a little bit of an adjustment period, but I think I would have liked to have seen better than 16th from him. Damage plays into that, but yeah, I think I would have liked to
You need to avoid that damage, and I agree. I'm giving a thumbs down to Haas.
Yeah.
Both of them. I honestly, I thought I expected a little bit more, and I'm disappointed. And again, I think poor strategy and not being able to stay out of trouble was. I expected more, and they let me down.
That's fair. I think overall, as a team, was not good. It almost seems unfair, but I guess like McLaren kind of gets a thumbs down just because of the consistency of the cars. I think the drivers weren't at fault, but both cars having issues in the one Grand Prix is not great. So I think that gets a bit of a thumbs down.
Bit out of their hands though, whereas Hulk was a bad driver, and Haas made bad strategy decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because at the end of the day, some of it's just freak accidents and bad luck. I just think if it's both cars, maybe there's a bit of correlation there. So it's a bit unlucky.
Who was your top three? Who were your top three and most impressed with, Ben?
Okay, I guess since we're doing top three, we can almost give it our weekly podium. So this isn't based on performance on track necessarily, like in terms of the position, but like how well they drove compared to what you expect. So I guess we'll each give our little podium for the week. Mine, I think, third place on the podium is going to be Stroll. I think just based on his lack of practice pre-season and coming back from the injury, I think he did a great job finishing sixth. A lot of that was a good car, but honestly, the hustle.
He held it together.
A few mistakes on track, hitting his teammate, but look, brought it home in the end. My P2 is going to be Albon.
Oh, sorry, should we go one at a time? Should we go?
Yes. We should go one at a time. Who's your third?
Yep. So I'm going to preface this by saying that if Hamilton had caught Sainz, Hamilton would have been P3, but unfortunately Hamilton did make a push and almost caught Sainz, and then he didn't. So, and I remember watching the race going, if Hamilton catches Sainz, that is outstanding, but he didn't. So my third place goes to Albon. I think we've got to get a little bit more used to seeing the Williams in the points, but it's still fresh enough for me that I'm just like, wow. Like, he gained 2 positions. Getting in the Williams into a top 10 is always a highlight for me. I really like Albon. I think he raced a really good race. Bravo. P3 to you, Albon.
Definitely agree. He's my P2 on my podium. Like you said, I think we can't keep giving them praise when we get used to it, but for now it's still impressive, and honestly just held the car together well.
It's just exciting when someone like 3 years ago was dirt last, like absolutely dog crap, and now they've worked their way up to points and they just keep going well. It's really exciting.
It keeps it interesting.
P2 for me is Gasly. I think Pierre had a bit of rotten luck with qualifying. It happens. He went that slide out. He slid out a little bit too much and got his lap deleted, and I think he made up for it. 9 overtakes, finishing P9, really made up for the catastrophe that was Ocon.
Yeah, at least Alpine can hold their head high with that result with Gasly at least. So.
It's not every day that someone can finish at the end of the grid, back of the grid, and get into the top 10. I think that's absolutely something to be commended. And then
usually a performance reserved for guys like Verstappen and Hamilton and stuff like that. So, yeah, props to Gasly. Good job.
Great strategy, great driving. Overall, double tick from me. And we both had the same number one, which I don't think anyone would disagree with this, but both of our P1s was Fernando Alonso.
Yep, 100%. I mean, obviously, great new car for the season, but just driving as well. And not only making up the positions, but how he did it. Just with the flair, diving in at the right point. It was exciting to watch. It wasn't just boring overtakes or overtaking in the pits. It was on track.
Dive at turn 10, I think it was, on Hamilton onto that second straight. Oh,
that
amazing.
Was just so clean. Looked like he was going to be forced around the outside. As soon as Hamilton went a bit wider, just sent it, absolutely sent it. And that's what we want to see. We want to see close battles. So, yeah.
I didn't really have, like, when he first went to Aston Martin, I didn't really have Fernando Alonso getting on the podium on my bingo card, but here we are.
Here we are. I mean, a lot of people are riding the hype train for him, and I thought it was a little bit blown out of proportion, but he's got a podium to show for it. So.
That's so much pace. Everyone else was like, I need to ease off my tires, and Fernando's just like, vroom, I'm gonna push hard. I'm gonna keep pushing, and everyone, and even the commentators were like, oh yeah, maybe he's gone too hard, too fast. Nope.
Oh no, he was looking comfortable out there. Lovely car to drive. So, what more can we say?
That's our review of the Bahrain. We should have mentioned at the beginning, this is our half an hour review of the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. Overall, pretty good. I'm going to give it like a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, we should give it ratings. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 just because at least there was drama, both good and bad. I'll give it an 8.
Hell yeah. So, thanks for listening. We're going to put this on the Opinions channel for now. If enough of you guys watch it, we'll make our own channel for it. Like and subscribe and let us know what you think.
See ya. Zoom.